Hello, I'm Kaz, and I'm going to be your economics teacher today. Today we're going to talk about stimulus. Now, if you're like me, you might be sitting at home putting off a 5-page paper on behavioral public finance and externalities. But if you're not, you might be stuck at home with the kids, waiting on that stimulus check to show up, and I don't blame you. That is exciting and hopefully going to help out a lot of people. I'd like to give us some economic perspective on what stimulus is and how it works, though, in the broader scheme, other than just the money showing up in your bank account. So that's what we're going to talk about today. To talk about that, we're going to have to go back just a little bit to the late 1700s, and we'll just work forward from there. Hopefully, it's not going to take quite as long this time to move from the late 1700s to now as it did, when it actually happened. But we'll see. I'm trying to keep this video at least manageable. So let's dive in. To get there, we're going to start, like I said, in the late 1700s with a guy called Adam Smith and his invisible hand. That might be confusing because you probably haven't met anyone with an invisible hand before, other than like maybe some strange old man with a weird sense of humor and a long sleeve. In this case, Adam Smith didn't actually have an invisible hand. He just had a theory that he talked about as the invisible hand of the market. And what that basically breaks down to is competition. He said that individuals and companies pursuing their best interests, so just doing what's good for them, is going to eventually cause efficiency, that everything's going to work out just fine if everyone just pursues their own self-interest, because companies are going to get better. They're going to constantly be evolving and trying to get the next best thing so that people will buy their products, and people will just buy the best products. And what this actually works out to, funny enough, is essentially survival of the fittest, which you may have heard from a biologist named Charles Darwin before. Funny enough, Charles Darwin, it's been said, actually started to get that idea from reading Adam Smith. So it all, full circle for you. We're connecting biology in here. Just everyone's happy. So yeah, that's where we're starting is with Adam Smith and the invisible hand of the market. Now, what we need to talk about stimulus is a basic understanding of supply and demand. Probably the one big buzzwords you can name from economics. Supply and demand. Everyone knows that's what it's about. So let's talk about exactly what supply and demand is, how it works. For that, we're going to need to go over here. We're going to check out a graph. I know you guys love graphs, so have I got one for you? It's going to be great. Okay, we're going to go do that now. All right, so here we have our supply and demand graph. What we're doing, we are looking at the price versus the number of pizzas that I can sell to you. We're going to use pizzas in this example because every economics professor I've ever had uses pizzas for this example. I have no idea why economists just like pizza. I'm on board with it. I like pizza. So that's what we're going to deal with. So let's start with what we call our demand curve. We call it a curve, even though in this case it's going to be a line, just because we want to make things more confusing for you and keep ourselves employed by using fancy terms. I think that that's a smart plan, so we're going to keep calling it the demand curve. So let's say you are starving and you haven't eaten in a week, and you are like, wow, this guy is selling pizzas. In this case, this guy is me. I'm selling you pizzas. And I'm a pretty greedy guy. So you're like, oh, I need this pizza. And I'm like, well, hey, $100, no problem, man. I'll give you a pizza, all right? $100 and you can have it. And you're like, oh my gosh, that is a rip, but I haven't eaten in a week. I will take that pizza for $100 because I'm so starving. And you're like, eating the pizza, and that was so good. And I'm like, well, hey, what about a second pizza, sir? Can I get you one? Sir, man, I'm like, hey, you look like you down that pizza pretty good. You want a second one? You're like, well, I do kind of want a second one because pizza is awesome, and I'm still really hungry. But I can't pay $100 for it, and I'm not as desperate for it as I was for the last one. So I'm like, hey, I'll cut you a deal. We'll make it like $80. And you're like, you know what, $80, that's still really expensive for a pizza, but sure, I'll do that because I'm still fairly hungry. So we keep doing this. I keep lowering the price a little bit for each pizza you buy, and eventually, by the time we're out here at 100 pizzas, you're like, well, I really don't need a 100th pizza. The first 99 were delicious. I loved them. But this 100th pizza, I think that's going to be more than I really care about. And so I'm only going to pay $1 for that. If you want to basically give it away, then sure, I'll take it, I guess, but I don't really need it. So this pattern of you getting less and less desperate for pizza, and so paying less and less, gives us our downward sloping demand curve. Yes, it's a line. We're calling it a curve to keep you all confused. Um, so now let's look at this problem from my perspective as the guy selling the pizza. That D stands for demand. Demand. I apologize in advance for my handwriting. Let's say that you as a consumer comes to me and say, hey, I really want a pizza. I'll pay you $1 to make me a pizza. And I'm like, I'm like, it costs me 99 cents to make a pizza. Like, I will make you a pizza, but that's a one-time deal. I'm gonna make you a pizza, but like, don't expect this in the future for $1. Come on. Um, So then later on, you and your buddy come in and you say, you know what? I understand, you're not really going to make us a bunch of pizzas for $1, but how about we'll pay you $2 and you get us each a pizza. We'll pay you $2 a pizza. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll make you two pizzas for $2. No problem. I got a little bit of profit there, whatnot. But I'm not sinking my life savings into kicking off this pizza business where I'm only making $2 a pizza. Well, eventually we get to the point, there's enough people adding up here that if you guys come in and you're like, hey, I will pay you $100 for any pizza you make, then I'm like, well, forget, I will sell everything I have in order to buy pizza supplies and just make you all these pizzas because I'm just going to make so much money. Oh my goodness. If I were to just roundabout calculate, if I were just spitball this thing, I'd say I'm going to make around $10,000. That's 100 times 100 for all you playing at home. And bam, we get this supply curve. There we go. So this is my supply curve. If you guys are going to pay me $100, I'm going to make so many pizzas. I'm just going to make all the pizzas. And this is how we each play the game essentially. Now this special point where we're making, I have no idea what this is. Maybe it's $20. Maybe it's $20, and I'm going to make 30 pizzas. Uh, this special point is called equilibrium. This is where we're both happy. We're both all right with the amount of pizzas that are being made and how much I'm charging for them. And this is what we want to get to. This is what we think the economy should function like. In the 1930s, when we talk about the Great Depression, what we thought, and what we were going off of for Adam Smith, like I mentioned earlier, being one of the founders of modern day economics, he said, hey, if we aren't like making enough, then eventually, hey, the price will come up. We'll supply more. We'll get to this point. Whether we're not making enough or making too much. If we're making too much, then like, hey, I'm supplying way up here, and you guys are like, no, I'm not paying that much for 70 pizzas. Then I'm like, okay, I've got these 70 pizzas. I'm just gonna lower my price until eventually we meet up back here. I'm not gonna make as many pizzas in the future. I'm gonna lower the price so that we end up back here. Adam Smith tells us that, hey, eventually in the long term, we're going to end up here. So when we're talking about the 1930s and the Great Depression, what we're looking at is that we are going to eventually get to that point. What we're really talking about is jobs here. That we think, hey, if workers are, if you demand too much wage for your job, then I'm just going to fire you, find someone else who will do it for cheaper. Let's go back over here while I'm talking. I'll find someone else that'll do it for cheaper. And if there is just too many if there is too much demand, if I don't have enough workers, then I will start raising my price on what I'll pay workers, and eventually I'll attract someone that will come. So this is what we were, there we go. This is what we were dealing with in the 1930s, is, hey, eventually this thing will work itself out. We'll get everyone employed, people will spend money, it'll be great, the economy will go back together. So at that point in the 1930s, in case you don't know about the 1930s, it was a pretty rough time for the economy. bread lines, people, practically starving to death. The Great Depression, not a great time. So we're figuring that in the long term this is all going to work out. That's basically what economists are saying at this point. Is they're like, no, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Eventually, this thing will work itself out. Businesses will get it figured out, and this invisible hand of the market will solve everything for us. Then. A guy called John Maynard Keynes comes on the scene with his general theory of employment, interest, and money. And he has a few different ideas. British guy. He comes on and he drops a line right out of the gate that really belongs in a Schwarzenegger movie. Not something you would expect from a nice British gentleman, but just one of the classics. He comes out and he says, let me see if I can get this right. In the long term, we're all dead. Thank you, thank you. So he says, we don't have time to wait for the long term. We're all going to be dead in the long term. He says, we need to act now. This thing is not going to work itself out in our lifetime even, so we need to do something to fix this. And the problem we are running into is the cycle of money was just caught up. So you end up with, hey, where do people get their money to spend on pizzas? Well, they get it from being employed by a business like a pizza seller who's selling these pizzas, making money. They're paying their employees are going to other businesses, or maybe even the same business. Maybe they're going back and buying pizzas from the same place they work, and they are then dumping their money back to the business, who then can buy more pizzas and give money to their employees. And this cycle continues around and around. And the problem was we just didn't have enough demand. People didn't have enough money to buy those pizzas. And then because people aren't buying as many pizzas, that business has to shrink up, not pay their employees as much, and not have as many employees. And so they aren't paying as much money out. And then these people, since they got fired from their pizza job, don't have money to buy more pizza. And it's a vicious cycle that never solves itself. And so what happened, what John Maynard Keynes said is, we need investment from the government. We need government intervention. And we're coming around to stimulus here. This is going to be great. You guys are going to love this. If you're not asleep yet, then you're going to love it. And John Maynard Keynes comes around and says, hey, the government needs to spend money they don't have. Like, crazy, oh my goodness, spend money they don't have. If you go in pop culture right now, you can probably find 30 people on the internet, ranting about how the government spends money that it doesn't have and they hate it and everything like that. Well, that's kind of what got us out of the Great Depression. I'm not suggesting that the government should just go out and spend money all the time on whatever. I am suggesting that there are times when we're all going to be really poor if the government doesn't spend money that it doesn't have. And one of those times may be coming up. I'm not suggesting there's going to be a Great Depression, anything like that. I certainly hope not. But that's how these things work. So what happens, the government, and this is helped out by World War II. Yeah, if you ever heard someone say World War II got us out of the Great Depression, that is partially true, but it's also partially true because we changed our approach to things, and then that approach played right into building a bunch of tanks and bombers and everything. So what happens, the government starts dumping money that they don't have into the economy. They start doing bonds, everything like that, and kicking the can down the road to say that we'll pay this money back, but right now we are going to just spend money and we're going to do projects. That's the thing, is we're going to build roads, we're going to do whatever. If the government suddenly comes in and wants to build a road, or in the case of like World War II, they want to build a tank, something like that, then the government is just going to give this money to a business and say, hey, construction company, you guys make roads, we need you to go do this. Here is a bunch of money, go make us this road. And when they do that, suddenly this company has extra monies. They can monies. Wow, yeah, I just said that. This company can use their extra money, and they can go hire new employees or pay their employees more for overtime, things like that, to get this road built. Suddenly, those employees have more money. They can go out and buy pizzas, say, and suddenly the pizza place is getting more money because suddenly all these construction workers are buying pizzas. The pizza place can hire more workers to make their pizzas. Those workers then are getting paid by the pizza place. They can go out and buy whatever they want. jet ski or something. And so then the guy at the jet ski factory is getting employed, getting money. And so this money moves around, and this was the big breakthrough. And this was actually basically a stimulus. This wasn't what we're seeing now. This wasn't what we saw with the Obama stimulus in 2008, 2009, whenever that happened. Where we're just giving you guys and maybe me too money, but this was they did projects so that businesses can hire more, and as I demonstrated earlier with the cycle of money that goes between these different employees of these different businesses, $1 goes a lot further than $1 because $1 gets spent in a business, they pay their employees, maybe they pay 50 cents to their employees go out and buy things for 50 cents. So another business gets their 50 cents, and they, then give 25 cents to their employees, and there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, those businesses have expenses too, so they can't give it all to their employees. But that is how it works, and that's the big thing about stimulus is there's a multiplication there where that dollar doesn't just go into your bank account and disappear. And this is going to bring us to our last point that I want to hit on. And this multiplication factor really is going to become a big thing in the future. Spend money. That's what I want you to know. When you get this stimulus, I understand people have bills. Don't do anything financially irresponsible. Be smart with your money, please. Don't save it all. Any room that you have to spend money, go spend money, because that's what this is designed to do, is you go and spend your money, and then that money ends up in the pockets, some of it ends up in the pockets of the employees that worked for wherever you spent your money, and they get to spend money, and it multiplies. And that's the important thing, is we need to get out and spend money. So, if we have any like high schoolers watching this, something like that, go tell your parents, like, now is the time for the new Xbox or PlayStation. Okay, don't buy a new Xbox or PlayStation. Go to local businesses. Don't, because those are going to be the ones that impact your community. Microsoft and Sony are going to be just fine. Those are the companies that make your Xbox and PlayStation, if you didn't know that. They're going to be just fine. Don't spend, wait till Christmas or something for the new Xbox and PlayStation. Go out and spend money at your local businesses, because those are also going to be the areas where the employees and the local business owners are going to directly impact the community, and most of that is not going to go to overhead of maintaining huge buildings and stuff like that. Like the Walmarts of the world they're paying a lot of money to keep heating those buildings and everything like that, and they have some advantages, economies of scale, if you know, you know. But yeah, small business. Go out, spend money at small businesses as soon as you can, as much as you can. Go do that, because it's going to help out those small businesses. Ironically enough, it's going to come back around and help out you, which is the really cool part. Is it's gonna get us through this thing. So don't hide that stimulus check in your savings account, which is another big thing that happened in the Great Depression, is everyone was paying back their bills and everything like that. And so none of this money got multiplied because it all just sat. And this is also just a sidebar tangent, whatever. This is also the issue with rich people, I guess, is not that there's a problem with being rich. Rich people are awesome. They do create jobs and everything like that, but their savings accounts are too big. They don't spend. One guy with $1 million doesn't spend nearly as much of that $1 million as 10 people each with $100,000, because they're going to spend much more of that collected $1 million than that single guy is. And that's why, we're not going to get into wealth inequality right now. But that is the important thing. Go out, small businesses. If you're me, Mike's Deli, Chelsea, Michigan, that's the place you want to go. Go buy some sandwiches. Kids, go ask for a new bike at your local bike shop. Bike shops are awesome. Motor City Bicycle, Ann Arbor. Go, do that. So yeah, go spend at small businesses. That is what's going to propel us through this thing, and bring us out the other side. This is going to be a long process. A lot of crazy stuff is going to happen. Hopefully, if anything else weird is going on, I've got a couple more ideas for videos that'll waste some of your guys' time. If you guys are stuck at home looking to waste time, again, trying to put the kids down to sleep, something like that, I've got more boring videos that I can send your way. So I will, yeah, look into that. But in the meantime, if we get this stimulus check, don't let it sit in your savings account. If you need it to, if you're going to be out of work for a while, something like that, by all means, hang on to that until you need it. But if you are in work, you are doing just fine outside of this thing. Do us all a favor and go spend money. I'm giving you permission right now. Go spend money. Go to Mike's Deli or to your favorite local restaurant, or your favorite local shop, or if they're doing online, buy a gift card, something like that. Go spend that money because it will get back around. It will help us all, just like we're in this thing together in this pandemic and not getting sick. We're in this thing together with our monetary policy now. And we need you. Get out there, spend money. All right, that's all I got.